Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's February 3rd, 2022 at 7:32 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Decker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Here.
Director Slater Carter?
Accounted for.
That's perfect, Lloyd.
And yet another variation. So all present and accounted for. President's statement. Well, we've enjoyed the rain we've had. We're doing better than we could have been, but we're still hoping for more rain. So kudos to everybody for still continuing good, wise water management and use, and please keep it up. I'll just note, I'm a little bit on the tired side tonight because I got boosted the other day and I'm kind of feeling it, but just speaking from the position of someone who just got boosted, if you need to get boosted, it's a good thing. Please join in. It's been a great excuse at work to say, I might not be able to make that meeting. Don't tell my boss. All right. Do we have oral comments for any items that are not on the agenda? I'm not seeing any, so let's move to the consent agenda. We have 10 items on the list of the agenda. Any director wish to pull anything for consideration?
Yes. The rain report. Oh, sorry. The water production report.
Okay, if it's just that one, if nobody has anything else, why don't we tackle that one and then we can move to approve them all afterwards.
Okay.
I read about the Montara surface water that we pulled over the month of December and found out it's 191,000. That seems to be an extraordinary low number. What is the reason for that?
Well, the reason for that are really the rains, Peter, because during heavy rains, we're actually not able to run the plant because there is so much essentially debris and other solubles that are washed in, particularly with the first rains. It's very difficult to keep the treatment plant up and running and in compliance. So during these, it seems counterproductive, but during the heavy rainfalls, particularly the initial runoff, first runoff in a year, we're simply not able to run the treatment plant. We need that spring water, not the runoff from the mountain. So we need the almost clean water that comes out of the spring or the series of springs that is just above our diversion structure. So that water we can treat very easily, and it's high quality water. The surface water runoff is just too dirty for our treatment plant.
I understand.
Can I ask a question also while we're on there? Clemens, the North Airport well is a regular producer for the district? You see that it is one of the sources that is producing very little water and very sparse. So most months it is only run for testing purposes, for water quality testing purposes. But if there is a need for operational or water demand purposes, then we utilize the airport sources as supplemental sources. So you'll see in the report that it's one of the sources that has very little production. Does that answer your question, Jim? Sure. Yes.
Is that part of the project which Tonya presented last week to go after the grants to resolve all that?
No, that's the Pillar Ridge wells.
Oh, okay.
And the Pillar Ridge wells are really solid producers. We are using those quite a bit, very consistent, and they provide that. There is definitely enough water in the airport aquifer, in that section of the airport aquifer, that is of high quality.
But the Pillar Ridge production is not mentioned in this sheet. Maybe you can add it.
It's the first source
Oh,
First
you're
water
right.
source, Pillar
Here's
Ridge.
the first one. Yeah,
Yes.
see it now.
Move to pass the consent agenda.
So I've got a motion for the consent agenda is listed, all 10 items. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Tracy, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yeah.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
I think you got her on that one, Rick. So the consent agenda is passed 5-0. Let me scroll back up to the top of the agenda so I can read the next item. Down at about page 110. Okay, consent agenda. Let's go to new business item 1, review and possible action concerning remote meetings during emergency conditions under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, so this item allows us to pass a resolution that allows the meetings be held by teleconference during the times of COVID. So our recommendation is to pass the resolution. It's a very similar resolution as we've been passing every month since over half a year now. And that would allow us to hold this meeting via teleconference as well as the second meeting in February.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
And for the first time, I will say aye.
and Director Slater Carter.
Sure, why not?
There's a long story behind that phrase, but I'll count that as an aye. And Greg, it's you I have to tell the story to, but another time. With 5 ayes, the motion passes. Let's go to new business item 2, review and possible action concerning temporary amendment to personnel manual and general manager's employment agreement concerning vacation payout and accruals due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, thanks, Scott. So we passed a very similar resolution. The board took a very similar action last year. And really the purpose here is to allow for more flexibility to schedule vacation during COVID times, as well as to increase the number of hours that can be rolled over during vacation time, as well as to increase the number that can be paid out during essentially this year. And we have Christopher Boucher here. I'm going to hand this over to him. He can present this in much better detail than I can. Christopher.
Thank you. And good evening, honorable directors. I will definitely strive to get a more enthusiastic eyes out of you all tonight. But this item very much goes alongside with the item you just passed. It does have to, it is related to the continuing effects of COVID. As the board recall, in 2020, the district declared a state of emergency as a result of the circumstances related to COVID. I kept saying, 2 years in, we've got to be out of this by now. But at this point, as you all can see, the continuing effects of COVID and the different variants, there's the Omicron, and I think there's a couple more that have come out recently. It is becoming a matter of concern. It does appear that it's spreading pretty quickly and easily. And with the size, with the workforce that the district has, it definitely is small and mighty. And so when there's 1 or 2 people out because of the effects of COVID, it does significantly impact district operations. From our standpoint, this is certainly something I would be willing to recommend to the board for your consideration. And like the general manager stated, this is very much identical to what you've passed last year to allow employees to bank additional hours that they're not able to take, especially for employees who are reaching the cap. They either can defer it and or sell back some of it. By allowing employees to sell some of it now, it also reduces the district's long-term liability as vacations are payable at the time of separation. And there is the continuing effects of compounding due to subsequent cost of living adjustments and so forth. So I hate to call that a win-win, but I think given the situation, it's also a way to recognize employees and encourage them to provide dedicated service to the district. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
All right. Do you have any questions or comments?
I support this 100%.
Yeah, Sam has done this, and Sam has had several employees, crew staff, become diagnosed as positive with COVID. And that's a much bigger crew of 14 than we have here. And I think it's just a good way to recognize how much our crew is doing for us. And I think it's an excellent recommendation. And I voted for it at SAM, and I will vote for it here.
I'll just add that it's real easy for people to work really, really hard and not take enough time off. And taking time is really important to recharging. It makes the day-to-day work a lot easier to do when we take the time to recharge, but it's really easy to skimp on that. So I'm a big supporter, despite the fact that I don't like it when good people aren't available right now. But being good people, it really helps if we support and say, you know, get the recharge time. That's something we have to say out loud and encourage. So I support it. Do we have any other comments? Hearing no comments, can I have a motion, please?
Make a
So
motion.
moved.
This is order.
I'll second Jim's motion.
I'm hearing Jim make the motion and
We have
Catherine
two
second.
firsts and 2 seconds.
Yeah, we're really enthusiastic.
Yeah, see, Christopher, nice job. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yep.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, that's it's a 5-0. The motion passes. I'm a little disappointed not to have heard an aye because I thought that would have been just and Christopher. All right, that is new business. Let's move to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast.
Rick, can you do that? I've been trying to call up the agenda and my internet is flaky.
Well, the big debate, of course, was I'll just call it the non-domestic waste source, whatever. We had offered, thinking there was a lot of resistance. Half Moon Bay and Granada wanted to run 100% of the thing with their clients. They didn't want Sam to touch them. We offered, the law said Sam signs the contract. We tried to compromise by saying, we'll have both agencies sign the contract, thinking that was a reasonable alternative. The Montara, Granada people, especially Matthew, went to their attorney finally, and their attorney said, no, Sam signs the contract, the permit. You can do anything you want. You can take total control over your client's testing, coordination, communication, blah, 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 blah. But you submit your permit to Sam. Sam signs the permit. At the meeting, we thought we had it totally locked up. We knew that Half Moon Bay thought that they had theirs locked up with the compromise, and they thought they could get away with something and doing all that. I just closed my thing. So they were ready to claim victory. Turns out we managed to block it and keep the old rules. The agreement is agencies will deal with their clients any way they wish. They will submit permit applications to SAM. Sam will sign the permit, just the way it says legally.
As long as the criteria for Sam are
Yeah.
met.
Sam can veto this somehow, but I don't envision that happening very often. I won't mention Ruddock's comments afterwards, but I think they broke down because they had lost the lawsuit and then lost what they thought this was their Pyrrhic victory. And then we voted on some of this other stuff like Chris Boucher just said. That was really the big debate, though, to get that domestic wastewater program going. And it is now running. We've submitted documents to the state showing how the testing is going. We're back on the roll. So everybody's submitting. It's not complete yet, but I think the state will be satisfied that we're doing something and we have a plan so we're done.
Keishan did talk to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and they gave us an extension until the middle of March to get all the work done, but they're very happy that a plan was decided on and that we can move forward. And Keishan has hired a specialist to work with the businesses on the permits. He has worked for Sam before, and we've been happy with the work. It turned out it had to be, we gave Keishan, one of Keishan's and everyone's concerns on this was making sure we had enough money for the program. It turned out that if we hired this consultant to do the entire program, beginning to end, it was going to exceed Keishan's spending authority. So he got it up and running for the first half, and we'll come back to the board for more money later.
Catherine, do you want to go over what happened at your operations committee a couple days ago?
We discussed succession planning. We need to be hiring people. Of 14 employees, 6 are going to be retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're going to be needing to increase the staff because Sam is physically a 20th century plant. And all the new folks coming into the industry are getting taught 21st century technology. So they don't quite know where to bang on the pipes with the wrench to make things open or close. That's not something that is taught. So it's going to take a lot of hands-on work. And
especially what you did with Kishan's future contract.
That hasn't been ratified by the board. I prefer to keep that quiet.
Okay.
I'd like, Scott, I'd like to say that for all their, I'd like to thank Rick and Catherine Clemens and Christine for all their hard work on the non-domestic wastewater. It was a very difficult, long road with a lot of extra time and meetings, and they, along with Sam's staff, did a super heroic job on getting this taken care of and through. So I want to thank Rick, Catherine Clemens, and Christine for their efforts on this on behalf of our district and on behalf of Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I concur, heartily concur. I see a hand from Greg. Let's go to Greg.
May I have permission to ask 4 questions quickly, even if the answers aren't supplied right now?
3.5, maybe 4, sure.
Okay. Is there any provision for continuous monitoring of any of the clients in any of the districts? Or part B of this question, continuous monitoring by the major pipes which constitute the inflow to the plant? In other words, separating Montara from El Granada GCSD from Half Moon Bay, any provision to do any of those things, monitoring?
I can answer that. The answer is hasn't been discussed.
The answer,
Can I ask the name?
the
Has
answer,
not been discussed.
the answer is what, Catherine? I'm sorry.
Has not been discussed at the SAM board level.
Okay.
Can I ask the names of the people at the Regional Water Quality Control Board that you know of were involved with this action?
Nope, I don't know them.
Okay.
Paul Kitchen.
Yeah, I will. Have you an estimate of the impact on ratepayers, especially Montara, of the non-domestic waste source control program? You know, the cost of administering this program minus the fees being charged to the various businesses and clients. Has that been produced?
The program as set up at SAM is intended to be self-funding.
Okay. Revenue neutral. And there's a way of auditing that?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's always a way to audit something.
Talk to Peter.
Yeah.
Okay. And my last question.
We know what fees have been assessed and what fees have been paid, and we should be allocating, we should be accounting for the costs, and they should roughly net out. So that's our expectation, because that's how it's written in the enabling ordinance.
And my last question is, was this the result of the bullying by Rick Lohman? The approval of this program?
No, the approval of this program was a result of the nagging by Catherine.
Yeah. I was just the incidental attackee.
I'm just going to
He's
add.
my reserve.
Someone has to
I'm
take
just going to add that for many years, the MWSD was largely what we would call a ministerial piece of business, and it was not hard at all. It was identify the businesses, have someone from SAM go and talk to them. They would take a look at what kind of discharges might be going into the system. They talk about sensible ways to deal with things, like restaurants had to have grease traps. It might have been something that like a restaurateur may not have like relished, but it was largely a non-issue. And it is remarkable how much time and effort and energy has gone into trying to resolve an issue that one agency attempted to turn into an issue. And it was complicated. And when Jim offers his thanks to everybody, I want to point out it was considerably more work than we anticipated, but with a reasonably good outcome. Catherine?
Yeah, I want to say that the reason for this is we had a person in charge of the NWSCP program who left in about 2005. She also did the lab work. And the general manager rotation revolving door started at about then too, shortly thereafter. And so there was nobody who was really in charge of it, nobody following up on it, nobody watching it closely. So it limped along, it didn't go away, it limped along, and there was grease trap inspections and other stuff, but there was nobody really coordinating it and watching it. This BOD problem, my humble opinion is, I'm glad it came up when it did, with a crew who knows the plant well enough to be able to manage it and get us through our supply chain problems. In talking to the crew, there were chemicals and materials that were needed that would have been very useful to manage this BOD problem. But due to the supply chain issues, they haven't been available. So the crew has been able to pull on their residual and historic knowledge, and working with good engineers has been able to manage this and control it. And it's a wake-up call, in my opinion, to SAM that we need good, solid, consistent leadership and management of all these little details. The bus duct problem a couple years ago was also a case in point. If you don't have a good manager keeping track of things, they fall apart. I remember decades ago on Sesame Street, they brought a conductor up in front of the New York Philharmonic, and he started, and they're playing a Beethoven piece, and he puts his baton down and walks away. And it was interesting to see how the whole piece fell apart. People weren't being conducted, managed, and Sam has been without a competent, long-term, knowledgeable conductor for a lot of years. And Montara is very grateful to have Clemens, and frankly, a long-term board who has a lot of residual memory, and Sam hasn't. The board turns over every couple of years, and the manager for a while was turning over every year or three. And I think Sam, if the board pays attention to this, Sam will be better for it, especially as we're trying to figure out how to bring ourselves into the 21st century.
Right. I have a request for our SAM representatives, and that is, as has been brought to everyone's attention in a variety of ways, Half Moon Bay's flow in the latest in this agenda packet is at 60.5%. Their attorney in the final arguments recently mentioned something about how it's growing, and I think he said something about it may continue to grow. I think as partners in this 3-partner agency, it would be good if we asked for whatever kind of understanding they might be willing to share with us about what's going on. This is a pretty substantial increase, moving them from just a few years ago at 50% to now over 60% of the flow. There's a couple of reasons why I think it's important to ask. This not to be pushy or getting into other people's business, but since we're in business together, we need to be thinking about what this might mean for planning for the plant. And also, should they come to an understanding of whatever's going on, and as in the past we've seen in other conditions, we make some correction and the percentages shift all of a sudden because somebody figured out a problem, which, frankly, it's kind of like Catherine was saying, if we got a problem, let's figure it out as soon as we can, right? But if we see that figuring out happen, the other 2 partners are going to be sitting here going, ooh, our percentage shifted, our financial burden to carry this may shift. If we can come to some better understanding of what's going on, maybe we can anticipate whether or not there may be some kind of rate shock coming that we might be able to plan for instead of be surprised by. So I'd appreciate it if we could, as reasonably as possible, ask, what kind of information do they have about, what have you done? What do you know? What do you suspect? Is there something that we can do to help? Great. One question, one of your questions was around monitoring. One thing that does happen is we do have some metering at various points in the IPS. So there are some things that we know about flows. That's not VOD sampling, but that's a thing to know about the system that may play into, you know, as you gain understanding about what's going on. It's good to know that there are some meters in some places. There are other places where we use the meters at other places to calculate what's happening. We'd love to have, you know, perfect meters all over the place, but it's expensive and impractical to do that. So we have what we have. We use what we have. It gets problematic from time to time, but it is part of how the system is built. Do we have
one more item on SAM. We've reinitiated the planning committee, comprised of Ruddock, Matthew, and myself. This was a couple days after the SAM meeting. We had an excellent meeting. We identified the electrical systems as the top priority. We agreed that we would look at updating that, not redoing the thing, but updating the costs. Kishan is allegedly going to present that at the next SAM meeting. So we are moving forward as fast as we can to look at alternatives to fixing, protecting, however we're going to do it, the electrical systems, which is the main weak point. And it was 100% cooperative. So that's news.
That's great. Thank you. All right, let's go on to the next item, Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. Greg, do you want to join in?
Oh yeah, I have several updates. I'll come to the SAM related stuff last. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a group of over 58 people working on trying to abate the airport noise. I expect the MCC will have a session on that in the next month. And I don't know that you need to know any more right now. You may be aware that there was a meeting not unlike some of your meetings where at 5 minutes before midnight, the MCC adopted a last-minute letter that was edited on the fly regarding off-leash dog walking, very contentious, supported a pilot for off-leash dog walking in Quarry Park and opposed it at Pillar Bluff. I'm still getting angry emails and calls from the Sierra Club and so forth about my position on that. There's also a concern about school traffic safety on unsigned intersections in Montara. 5th and LeConte comes to mind, and there's a couple of others. Actually, there's half a dozen. And I'm going to be working with some parents as well as McKitteridge, is that his name, the superintendent, the principal, Amy of Farallon View School, and the school Safe Routes to School person to try and get Department of Public Works to put in some traffic signs. I don't know whether they'll be yield signs, two-way stop signs, four-way, or what we can get. DPW, of course, has a set of protocols that is very burdensome to try and get over. So I'm going to do my best. And then the last item, going on to the sewers. I noticed, and I don't know if I've spoken here about it, but I did speak to the Half Moon Bay City Council, and I registered my extreme concern that they provided 80% of the peak flow on December 13th, and that the plant exceeded its theoretical capacity and it couldn't even be measured. And this is all stuff you guys know. To me, the implications are important, and I wonder if the Mid-Coast Community Council actually wants to have a session on this or not. But among the many unpopular alternatives, I guess the least unpopular, and apparently I'm not the only person to have this idea, is raise the thresholds on the door on the electrical building like you would on a boat, and seal the perimeter, you know, and put a little slope around it so water won't puddle. That to me seems an easy first solution in case this happens again. But then there's the issue of temporarily suspending connections, because it wasn't only Half Moon Bay, but also the wet weather storage that is available in the IPS came to within 6 inches of overflow, is my understanding. And I know that temporarily putting a moratorium on connections is not going to be popular, but I think we're at risk. And depending on how quickly the district, SAM, can make corrections to prevent the problems. I mean, we already saw Montara have a spill because the equipment that under contract would have been provided to Montara to prevent the pump spill wasn't available because it was bailing out SAM. So we've got problems there. The other thing is the lack of wet weather storage in Half Moon Bay, which was a very polite, nebulous recommendation of Kishen, where he said we need wet weather storage south of the plant. I'm arguing that needs to be done right away. And I've talked to prior GMs of the SAM plant about where it could go and what made sense. And they all think it's overdue. Okay, this would be Dickinson and Beverly Marshall. I don't know what Half Moon Bay's reaction on that is going to be. The other alternative is for them fixing their I&I. And Leonard Warren pointed out, and looking at the flow reports, it seems Granada has the least as a percentage I&I problem. We're second, but Half Moon Bay has a terrible I&I problem. And the good news on that front is it turns out PG&E has been doing a camera survey of sewers and laterals all over as a result of the San Bruno explosion. And Clemens pointed out there was a 2-inch gas main that went through one of your sewer mains. John Sabo also pointed to another instance, I think it was in El Granada, where a gas pipe had been put through a lateral they were trying to, or a pipe they were trying to clean. So that the result of PG&E doing this camera survey is they've covered all of El Granada now. They have, I think, I'm going to call the crew chief, but I believe they've just completed the survey of all of Half Moon Bay. And I'm going to confirm whether that included laterals as well. It seems to me the whole Wavecrest Ocean Colony pipe down to the Ritz, et cetera, is a likely major source of I&I. But the good news is with that camera evidence, they might be able to identify where they should be patching their I&I faster. So, at what is it, $2 million a mile, maybe they only have to do a few spots here and there instead of 35 miles of long-term work. I have hope. But at any rate, I raised those alternatives for immediate action. And I think that should be brought up with every one of the agencies. What's the action plan to prevent the plant from being overloaded and get Half Moon Bay to fix its part of the problem, et cetera? Okay, so that I may or may not be a session at the MCC. I don't know what you think of the propriety of that. I'm welcome to entertain any comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that analysis, Greg.
At some point, Clemens, we might want to update the public on the activities that we regularly engage in for working on I&I. Like, I don't know how long it's been since we televised or smoke tested or done any of the other things that we do, but rather than be ad hoc about it, maybe we want to just present it at some point. And Greg, sure. To some of your concerns in terms of asking what our neighbors do, I think we need to be prepared to talk about what we do and then compare notes and among other things, find out, Half Moon Bay may have been televising. I haven't asked, so I don't know where they are with, when did they last televise and have they been measuring and then going and spot checking and doing the other things that you do when you're really trying to run these problems down. Catherine?
Thank you. And Clemens, I'd like us to have somebody come in to clarify some of the misconceptions that I hear from Greg about I&I and its sources. I think that, remember, Scott, we had somebody come in from a sewer agency in East Bay years ago to Half Moon Bay for a workshop and talk about I&I. And I was shocked to hear that even if you replace every single foot of your system with brand new sealed up pipe, you will still have I&I. And they were talking about where I&I comes from. some of the things are older houses have occasionally have had sewer laterals made up of old wine bottles or clay pipe that cracked and is broken. And I also comes up from underneath. And essentially, it's not a single, it's a non-point source problem. And you can fix all the point sources you can find, but there will be new ones. And I think the public might have a better understanding of how this works. What I have read and heard is that new development does not cause I&I. And with the new water efficient appliances, the new development probably contributes less than older places. So I would like to maybe invite somebody in to do like a quick sewer flow I&I 101 in about half an hour. Maybe Pippin can do it. But I just think it's very important that we make sure we're all speaking the same language, and with the same, with contemporary engineering knowledge on this. I think it will help all of us.
Yeah, the SAM workshop, Sam hosted several agencies, and I think it was Castro Valley. I remember the general manager there made a very, very excellent presentation. And I think Albany, if I recall correctly, it was East Bay near Berkeley, north of Berkeley, might have been Albany or El Cerrito, but they actually went on a project to replace every single lateral in the district, every single one. And it was no time at all before they found out that didn't solve the problem at all. And Greg, I've mentioned to you in person, a heavy truck drives over, makes the ground shift a little bit, and the pipes crack just a smidge where the lateral comes into the main. And water likes to flow down the outside of the pipes. So groundwater, especially when it's raining and the water table is up, water will just flow around the pipe, and the first crack it sees, it goes in. So it's a tough problem. And it's the kind of thing that led to us building retention basins instead of trying to, put Band-Aids on everything. I saw Michelle's hand for a minute, but it seems to be down. But
Michelle had her hand up.
Yeah. Michelle, did you have something?
Yeah, just a quick thing. I do remember listening that the city of Half Moon Bay was doing smoke testing on their sewer lines. So for what that's worth.
Yeah. Everyone goes after this problem. It's a tough problem. Go ahead, Catherine.
Sorry.
I forgot to report that the MCC has its annual planning retreat this Saturday morning, beginning at 8:30. It is open to the public. So I'll see you all there.
Okay.
Probably not. I just, for the public, I wanted to say smoke testing is where we fill sections of sewer pipe sealed up with smoke and look for where it's coming out. People have been known to attach their roof drain system to their sewer lateral to keep their yard dry.
And is that a good thing to do, Catherine?
That is a very good thing to do for a dry yard, but a very bad thing to do for the sewer plant and for your sewer bills.
And it is totally illegal.
Yes.
But it happens, and I know homeowners it's happened to, and they didn't know. Somebody did it when working on their home, and the homeowner didn't know. So it's a good thing when we can help them discover that. Clemens?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I wanted to thank Greg for noticing the PG&E program and looking into this and talking to the foreman over there. We signed up for the program that is apparently now implemented south of us. I guess that must have been 10 years ago, pretty much directly after the San Bruno disaster. that program was implemented, came out. We had similar issues and signed up for it, and haven't heard at least since 8 years from PG&E on this. So hopefully we get some response in the coming months. Thank you.
I can send you the name of the guy at PG&E who does the planning and hands out the contracts if I haven't already.
Yes, you did already. Thank you.
Okay, Rick.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that there was a move a while ago to have on a house sale, inspect the lateral and to say, yes, this is a good lateral. The real estate developer group, Samcar, blasted that and just shut it down. We will not add that expense to the sale of the house.
Other counties in the Bay Area have that regulation when you sell a house or buy a house to have your lateral inspected. We're one of the few that don't.
Yeah.
Clemens.
Yeah, but we're actually one of the few that now replace the upper lateral, which is the lateral or the full lateral that is owned by the homeowner with any sewer improvement project. So when we talk about I&I, and I heard the request from the board to come in, we're going to talk about our sewer improvement projects because that is where we televise, where we look at pipes that need replacement. We look at pipes that are being replaced as well. And we're going to lay out anything that we do when it comes to I&I. And one of the things that this board approved about 2 years ago is that with every sewer improvement project, the laterals along the main line will be replaced at no cost to the homeowner in full. So we see a significant I&I reduction to that, hopefully in the coming years. The more we do it, the better it will be for our I&I situation. Thanks.
Good idea.
So I'm looking forward to our non-ad hoc presentation, but that was a pretty information-rich information item. That's what you get when you have a group full of water and sewer nerds.
We don't play trivia.
We actually like this stuff. So, all right. How about the CSDA report?
CSDA, there's allegedly a meeting in early February. We've got our email list messed up. I haven't seen the announcement yet, but it would normally occur in early February. LAFCO report, standard kind of stuff, budgets, all that kind of thing. The big news is Martha Poryatos resigned, retired. They are looking now to debate how to replace her. And that's confidential. The other interesting thing is a legislative committee is coming up. That's how we we have state lobbyists who watch every single piece of legislation related to things having to do with special districts. They make recommendations down to us. They keep us apprised of everything their attorneys are doing. We meet and then we distribute that to our local special districts. In case anybody's interested in getting on LAFCO, LAFCO is divided in 4 parts as opposed to GAL in 3 parts. We have the cities, 2 reps, counties, 2 reps, special districts, 2 reps, and 1 public member who can hold no office, no elected office. And each one of those systems has a backup. They've announced that the public member and her alternate are both open. Anybody in the county can apply as long as you don't hold elected office. It's always been an interesting person, and then the board will vote on who they pick. But if you know of anybody, especially on the coast side, who might be interested in doing that, it's a very powerful spot. We decide boundaries and mergers, and that's why I'm there, because I fought for 5 years to get on there. If we could possibly get another coast side member on there, that would just be awesome. So if you think of anybody, call me and I can work how to get their application in.
Rick, I have a question. Rather than be duplicative and hire another LAFCO manager to replace Martha, have they considered like merging neighboring LAFCOs?
They have not considered that. And beyond that, it's all on special session, so I can't talk.
And a related question, have they considered doing a municipal services review of the county to see if perhaps it would be better if the county was merged with some neighboring counties? Okay, enough of the fun. Enough of the fun. Let's go to attorney's report. Christine?
I have no report. Thank you.
Okay. Any director's reports?
Nope.
General manager's report.
Yeah, I do want to mention that we actually have a new newsletter. My bad that it didn't get into the packet, but it is on the website and very soon in everyone in Montara's mailboxes as well.
And
Okay.
Clemens, I'll mention.
And just go ahead.
Yeah, we can also mention that we are actually sending it now to the Pillridge folks directly. So they're going to get the benefit of getting it as soon as the Montara folks are getting it. Moss Beach, rest of the Moss Beach folks are getting it through the billings, which are coming next month. But anyone interested in it, it's online. So you can find it there very easy on our website.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that you answered the question I was about to ask. So any further questions on this? If not, I don't see any. We have a closed session to follow. We have 5 items, and let me tell you about them. The first one is a lawsuit. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there was a lawsuit where Half Moon Bay sued Granada and Montara, and apparently there's been a preliminary ruling in that. Apparently we're going to have some conversation about that litigation in closed session. We have one potential case of anticipated litigation, another case of anticipated litigation, and let's see, there's existing litigation in Montara Water and Sanitary District versus the Dow Chemical Company. This is a long-running matter, years and years. And then a conference with real property negotiators, and this is about the property 771 Rivera Road, Montara, California. And I believe Christine is going to want to say something about that item.
Go for it.
Yes, please. So with regard to the real property negotiations item, Director Lohman will be recusing himself from the closed session item due to a conflict of interest under Government Code Section 87-100. He will disengage from the Zoom meeting at that time.
And then we'll have a couple of more items, one on the public employee performance evaluation and a conference with labor negotiators for our unrepresented employee, the general manager. Those are the items. I'd like to thank the public for coming and joining and participating tonight. It's part of what makes our community great. Thank you very much for being here. Let's take a recess and come back at, let's make it 8:35.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Night.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you, Tracy.
Good night.
Good night, Michelle. And here's PCT Live.